Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jay from Sony Alpha Lab, and what I got here is the new Sony A9 full-frame mirrorless camera. So the Sony A9 goes for $4,500 US for just the camera body itself. I actually got the camera with the 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8 GM lens, so I'll be using that primarily for this review. Although I do test my Canon 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 L lens as well. Alright guys, I'm just going to bang through some of the key features of the new Sony A9 while it's on the turntable here, and then we will move on to some hands-on. Alright, so for starters, we have a new full-frame stacked CMOS sensor with integral memory, and this allows for 20 frames per second shooting with autofocus and auto exposure tracking. 24 megapixel. It does have a low pass filter on there, unlike the A7R II, which does not. So this new sensor is capable of calculating up to 60 times a second the autofocus and auto exposure. So that's how it's able to keep up. It's unbelievably fast. It also has an autofocus tracking sensitivity adjustment. Has blackout-free shooting. Thanks to the new electronic shutter system. The phase detection system has been upgraded to 693 focal points, much better than the A7R II, which is only 399. And the new A9 also has 93% coverage. It's almost the entire frame is covered with focus points. Makes it really good for tracking subjects on the edges of the screen. It has a super fast shutter release of 1/32,000th of a second, and you can achieve that silently, so it does that as well, silent shooting. That super fast shutter speed also helps with the anti-distortion shutter. That makes it good for capturing moving subjects during sports. So now you can also get continuous shooting with A-mount lenses, but it does slow down to a max of 10 frames per second with autofocus tracking, and that would be using the LAEA3 lens adapter. So you still do get great performance, but not the same 20 frames per second when using an A-mount lens. So the Sony A9 also has an advanced IAF system, so now you can have the head turn approximately 3/4 of the way and still maintain accurate tack-sharp eye focus. The autofocus is effective down to EV of -3 brightness, so in super low light conditions it's still going to be able to achieve precise, accurate AF. It has a new high-resolution quad VGA OLED True Finder, so it's a higher resolution unit. It has a couple other cool features like focus area registration function, so you can actually register where you want the focus to be and then recall it. You can also recall custom settings during hold. That's a really powerful feature if you're using sports, for example, and you want to take a quick shot of something else and then go back to the sports. You can just basically hit a button, a custom button, and it'll recall specific settings. And then when you let go of that button, it'll go right back to what you were currently using. It also has dual slots for convenient data management. It has the 5-axis steady shot, same as the A7R II. This new A9 also has FTP transfer via LAN terminal on the camera body. So it also has the touch LCD screen. The menu system has been upgraded and it offers a My Menu area. I've been asking for this forever. So you can put custom options in one section of the menu for you, like the features that you use most. And that's really nice. Been asking for a long time for that and they finally came up with it. Got a sync terminal for the flash units. Dust and moisture resistant design. It does 4K internal movie recording. It does XAVC-S for high bitrate recording. And the 120 frames per second recording in HD is quite good. I have quite a bit of sample footage for that. And it's claimed that the fast hybrid AF for movie shooting is much better, so you should be able to track subjects better while recording video. I found it worked pretty good, but it didn't quite keep up with really fast moving subjects at a close distance. When they're further away, it's much easier for the camera to do that. It's also got zebra functions for advanced video. Alright guys, so what you get in the box when you buy this $4,500 camera is a power cord, rechargeable battery. It's a new battery, the NP-FZ100, twice the power of the old battery. It's got a battery charger, like the real deal kind, where you slide the battery in and plug it in the wall. Awesome. It's got a cable protector that'll like hold the HDMI cables in and stuff so they don't fall out or, get tugged on. It keeps it nice and secure there. AC adapter. It's got a shoulder strap, body cap, a hot shoe cap, an eyepiece cup. That stuff comes on the camera when you get it. A micro USB cable and a huge, thick, really high quality instruction manual. Alright guys, so here is the Sony A9 from the back side. I just wanted to give you a all-around view of this thing, hands-on style. And you can see where the buttons are located here. We got the menu, C3. Got your nice record button up here so you'll never accidentally hit that. You have your dial here. You got another dial here, and notice the ergonomics, how this is bumped out. They really made it much nicer. The buttons are easier to feel. Now we have this new joystick toggle here, which is great for moving your focus around, things like that. The screen here is nicely designed. It doesn't interfere with the tripod. And then you got your viewfinder here. Now we're using the viewfinder. It does that automatically when you put your eye up to the camera. Alright, so looking at the top side here, we have the focus drive mode wheel here, you could see, and it has a locking button, so you have to press this button and then you can turn it. Like so. And you can see here I have it on self-timer mode currently. Well, there's medium, there's high, and there's low. So you can see the difference in speed. And that's single shot. And then below that you have the focus mode dial here. You see that? And this one also has a lock, but in order to unlock that you have to hit the button here with your thumb, and then on the back side there's a little lever here that's attached to the dial that allows you to move it like this. It's great for switching manual focus. This is a little bit awkward at first. I'm fumbling with it still, but once you get the hang of it, you just got to use your thumb and your pointer finger, and it's pretty straightforward. On this side, you have the shutter up here on the top, and then you have your exposure or comp dial. It's got nice feedback here. You got a wheel here with nice aggressive gears here. Same with this one. They got a nice aggressive bite to it, and it's not too hard to turn, but not too easy either. Feedback's really good. Now this mode dial here is also locking. So you have to press the button in order to turn it, like so. And then you have your adjustment for the EVF here, if you need to for your vision. And then you got the hot shoe here, and there's the hot shoe. Alright guys, from the side here you got the port doors. And you can see there's this little tab here that you just stick your fingernail in and you pop them out, like so. And then they get out of your way. And if you notice, if you look closely here, you can see that this is actually embossed, like it lifts up a little bit. So if you look at the back of the door, you can see that it also has like a ring around it. So it actually does kind of enclose that with like a overlapping lip design. And they're pretty easy to get on. Just snap them on there. And here's the last one. This one, the tab's at the top. And this is for your LAN port and your flash sync. These little holes here are the speaker holes. Alright, so now on the right side here you can see the grip. You can see how this is nice and cut out for your finger to hold. And I actually have my camera strap on here, and it's the camera strap holder. I'm just going to lift that up over there for now. But anyways, if you check out this memory card door, it's got a nice slide open. Check that out. And you can see the different types. This one here, slot 2, and then you got slot 1, which handles the version 2, and the slot 1 only handles version 1. So they're not both version 2, which is, important to note. And then this also has that step design on the door to help with weather sealing, and it looks like it'll do a pretty good job. That's a very nice design, much better than the old design. The old design used to pop out and then it would swing open, and you could accidentally, like depending on how your hand was, you could accidentally pop that open. Alright, so here you got your remote sensor. So if you're using a remote control, it sees there. You have the front dial here. Then you have your on and off switch here and your shutter. Here you have the AF illuminator. Up here you have your microphone. There's a little hole there. There's one on each side for stereo. You have your lens release button here. Okay, you press that to release the lens. You can see this little steel pin goes in and out. And then you have your sensor, of course, there. You have your electronic contacts, and you got your E-mount. And then also you have here this white dot, which is where you line up the lens when you're putting it on. And also from this angle, you can kind of see the other side of the focus mode lock dial. Here's the other side of that. Alright, so looking at the bottom, you can see I have my tripod plate mounted. It mounts quite nice here. And but also I wanted to show you this battery door. So it has this slide lock design, and unfortunately it doesn't automatically spring back. I wish it did. And then it pops open. And here is the battery. And you can see this new battery. It's way larger. It's like double the milliamp hours pretty much. And that just slides in like so. Locks in with this little blue lock. When you close the door, see how it doesn't automatically just lock closed? You have to slide this over. Alright guys, I just wanted to show you quickly just some focus testing in the lab here with the Sony A9 and the FE 24-70 GM lens. You can see right there it's focused on the clamp and the bolt. So let me just loosen my tripod up here and let me show you what this thing can do. This is at f2.8. And it's quite impressive, if you ask me. Has a hard time with the lights. That's very common though. There it goes. Alright guys, so as you can see here I have the wide focus mode selected currently, and if you hit the function button you can actually go to the focus modes, and here I am in the focus area. You can then scroll down and select your focus mode, and notice here on the flexible spot you can change your size. So I set it to small, and now you can move the focus point around with the new thumb toggle. See that thumb toggle right there? You can actually move the focus point around so easily when using flexible spot. So this is nice if you need to focus on something very small or precise in your scene. I just wanted to show you how touch focus works, and it works quite well. As you can see, I have it focused right now on the screw here, and basically you just touch the screen and hit the focus button and it will focus on where you touch. See that? So anyways, in the menu here, you just got to go to Setup 2, page 2 of 7, and if you scroll down here you'll see touch operation, and that's where you turn it on. And check it out, it works really good in video as well. So now I'm recording video and you just touch the screen while you're recording and it automatically switches. You see that? It transitions nice and smooth. Look at that, amazing, right? It's particularly useful for video, more so than photography in my opinion. Alright guys, another feature I wanted to show you, which is this ISO Auto Minimum Shutter Speed. This is a fantastic feature here, and this is perfect if you're using Auto ISO and you want your shutter speed to be a certain minimum speed. Like for example, you could set it here on the left. I know it's probably hard to see here, but that's 1/125th of a second, 1/250th of a second, so that you could make that your minimum shutter speed basically. So let me go back to my ISO settings. If you on the thumb wheel, if you hit the right side and you look at the ISO settings, you go to auto, and notice here on auto you can then, if you hit right, you can go over and change your maximum and minimum. So this will basically, you know, set your parameters. So if I'm doing like the dogs or the kids or something, I would go to at least 1/250th, maybe even 1/500th of a second. And that still gives you the flexibility of using aperture priority mode, or for example, and not shutter priority mode, and then utilizing the auto ISO feature. And that will just keep your ISO as low as possible, but while also maintaining that minimum shutter. And you can see it's on page 7 of 13 here on menu 1. Alright guys, so continuing on with some features here, I just wanted to show you how facial recognition works. And I pretty much always have this feature on, and you can see here how the little squares are popping up over my face. You see that? Now I'm just going to show you where that is in the menu. You can see it's on page 13, and you can actually register faces as well. Where you would want to do that is if you have like a bunch of kids and you want to focus on just your kid, for example, or just a particular kid. And I notice with groups of people, you don't really want facial recognition turned on necessarily, because you know it'll focus on all the faces, and you might not get a sharp shot on the particular person you're looking for. So in that case, you can register the face, as you see here in the menu, or you can just turn facial recognition off and just use regular focus mode. Alright guys, I just wanted to show you the Auto HDR and Dynamic Range Optimizer area feature. To use this Auto HDR feature in particular, you do have to be in JPEG mode. That's why it's grayed out right here. I wasn't able to select it because it was grayed out. So I'm just going to go back to Quality and change to JPEG right here, extra fine. And now when I go back to the Auto HDR feature, I'll be able to select it. As you can see now, Auto HDR is now lit up and ready to go. And you can scroll right or left with this feature, just like you can on a lot of other features. There's little arrows next to it, and you can then dial in what EV power you want. I tend to like 4 for the most part, 4 EV. I'm just going to turn that off for now. And I just wanted to show you a couple other things. Notice the picture effects. You also have to be in JPEG mode to use these picture effects, and they're fun to use. You know, a lot of times you're just looking for something different, and it's a lot of fun to play with these on occasion. Now obviously this is a pro-oriented camera, so most people probably aren't going to use these features, but they're fun. Like I said, partial color, things like that. You got high contrast black and white, all sorts of stuff. And you can turn that off. And then you also have the creative styles. Now this you can use in RAW mode, so you can change the way your RAW images are processed. There's a couple varieties in here that are pretty good. Landscape will bump up the blues and the greens and the sharpening, things like that. It's basically just creating a profile, and you could utilize the different profiles as you see fit. Sometimes I use vivid mode. So focus magnifier is another feature that I wanted to show you guys, because if you're using a lens that does not have electronic contacts, like an old school Minolta lens or something like that, you're going to need to use focus magnify in order to check to make sure you have sharpness, optimal sharpness. And you can also use focus peaking to help assist you in this process. And it's a great option. I mean, the focus peaking is super powerful when you're using manual focus lenses. As you can see here, see how the white is coming up just to help you find when you're in sharpness. And it's a really cool feature. Now you can also change the color of the peaking. Yellow is often quite good, but depending on what you're shooting, if you're shooting yellow flowers, you're not going to want to use yellow. And you can see here, see the yellow popping up? Works really good. And so peaking in combination with focus magnify is a great way to ensure that your sharpness is perfect when using manual focus lenses. Monitor brightness can be changed to sunny weather mode if you're having a hard time seeing it, and I use this feature all the time. It's going to drain the battery a little more, but excellent feature nonetheless. If you're using a remote control, you turn that on here. So here's the My Menu area, and I have format added. If you go to the right, you can actually add an item, sort items, things like that. Alright guys, I just wanted to show you the different video recording formats here, and here's where you can select 4K video. When you select that, when you go to record setting, these are your actual frame rate modes that you can record under when using 4K. So let me switch to the regular HD mode, which is what I normally use, and here's the 120p option. Alright guys, I'm just using my camera slider here to show you how the focus tracking works on, video. Now, the subject is extremely close. It's at like pretty much the minimum focus distance when I started, and I'm just moving the camera back on the slider very slowly. And just like the other Sony cameras, it almost seems like it learns as it does something. So as you can see, it loses it a couple of times when I'm going pretty slow, where it seems like it shouldn't lose it. And then I speed up and it actually maintains it way better. So it almost, like I said, learns. Like this little clip here was actually quite a bit longer, but the behavior is pretty much consistent throughout the clip. At first it struggled a little bit, and now you can see how fast I'm going, and it's maintaining it quite well. I mean, it's not maintaining it perfectly, but it's still maintaining it pretty darn good. So now I have the focus mode still set into the center area for that screw clip I just did. And you could see it tracks the face, but as soon as you move away from that focus point, it loses focus, and it's focusing on the dollar bill now, because I have it set like pretty much right in the center to a small little focus. Now I changed the focus mode to wide area, and now it's going to track the face all the way to the edge. Check this out. It works really good. So depending on how you want it to track, you can dial it in via different focus modes, and also that sensitivity adjustment I talked about earlier. The focus tracking sensitivity, you could have it lock on a subject better than another. I tried playing with that, and to be honest with you, when doing this test in wide focus area mode, it really didn't seem to matter what the sensitivity was set to. It behaved the same way. Alright, so what we got here is the gazillion tons of Bubble Fun Whirlwind Party. Check this out.
You put the bubbles in and it makes like a whole city.
So as you can see, this slow motion video is quite awesome. There's just no way around it. I really had a lot of fun doing this. I know it's a lot of different footage here, but I just wanted to show you, what you can do. Playing with the kids is what I like to do at this point in my life, and this adds to the fun. There's no doubt about it. The depth of field is really narrow on this particular clip. I had it at f2.8 focus. You can see Layla's sharp right there. That's where I had the focus point set. Alright, you ready? You sure? Hang on tight. Hang on tight. Super pushes. Alright guys, so here we are in Lightroom, and I'm just going to go through to show you the ISO abilities of the Sony A9 and the resolving power. So what we got here is ISO 100, and you can see that's nice and clean, and that's zoomed into 1:1 ratio. So that's about how much resolution power you get. On like a 42 megapixel sensor, you're going to be able to zoom in much more. For example, like the dollar bill will look a lot bigger because of the extra megapixels. But anyway, I'm just going to scroll through here and check the ISO, and you can see the numbers right up here. It's ISO 100, and here's ISO 200, here's ISO 400, and you'll notice that there's really not much noise at all until you get up to like 6400 area. Here's ISO 3200. You could start to see just a little bit of noise creeping in, not too much, but in this shadow area, you can see if I actually go 2:1, you can see a little closer. You could see there's a little bit of degradation starting to creep in. Then if we move up to ISO 6400, you could see it a little bit more. And then right here, 12,800, you definitely start to notice it. I'll just go back to 6400 quick, and then go back to 1280, and you could really see the noise is starting to creep in. This is still usable. I'm at 2:1 here, so at 1:1, it's really not that bad. I'm starting to see a little bit of color shift here at this point at ISO 25,600. It's starting to get a little bit flatter as far as the colors go. And here's ISO 51,200. This is the highest I have set right now for my auto ISO. I have it clipped here at 51,200. I don't want to go any higher than this for my purposes, but still, you can if you need to. So here's ISO 102,400. So let me just go in. I'll show you a full screen here, and you can see on the corners they're starting to get a little bit of a purple color cast creeping in. And I'll zoom in. That's 1:1. Let me go to 2:1. But again, you could still see all the detail on the dollar bill. You can still read the numbers and stuff. So it is definitely noisy. There's no doubt about it. You could see the noise, but you could still read stuff. I mean, there's still enough detail that, at the end of the day, like, again, even if you were to print this pretty small, like 4:6, it would look really good. Even at ISO 100,000, that's remarkable. And definitely an improvement over previous models, for sure. So you could see here at ISO 204,800 that the purple cast really starts to come in. And I could show you that if you go back to ISO 102, 400, it's not so bad. You could start to just see it. But then on this one, it really comes in heavy. So now real world wise, here's an ISO 204,800 of some crayons. And if you zoom in here, I'll show you the detail. And you can see, I mean, it's definitely noisy, but not bad. I mean, considering it's ISO 200,000, that's pretty good. And this is what, ISO 16,000 looked like, only a few short years ago. So the technology advancements is remarkable. And here's 51,200. As you remember a second ago, I told you this is where I have my auto ISO maxed out at. And you can see this is pretty good. This looks pretty darn good. Now, here's another ISO 51,200. And this looks a little bit more noisy. The exposure is not exactly the best. I took another frame and the exposure is a little bit better. You could see the brick, the detail. It's pretty noisy there. And now here's another frame where the exposure is a little bit better. And it's the same ISO 51,000, but if you zoom in, there's a little bit more usable detail. And this is 2:1. Let me go to 1:1. So you could see there. That's the ISO run, and the ISO performance is really good on the Sony A9 in my opinion. Here we are back in Lightroom, and I want to go over some of the real-world photos that I got. So I'm just going to hit Shift-Tab to get rid of all these menus here. That's what I did. And then I'm going to hit F to go to full screen. And now I'm just going to hit the right toggle to scroll through these images. Now, full-frame camera format gives you killer depth of field if you have, you know, an adequate lens to exploit that. And in my case, I do. I have f2.8 and I got 70 millimeter, and that's what's giving me this killer background separation. And you can see the sharpness and clarity is all just phenomenal. This lens does a really good job. The dynamic range is very good. And here's just a scooter on the deck, just a bike tire. I'm just showing you how awesome the depth of field separation can be when you get to you know, minimum focus distance with a full frame, you know, size sensor. It's awesome. A little birdie laid some eggs. This image isn't really that great, but I just thought it was kind of cool. Here's Layla smiling on the deck. It's like the first day I got the camera. And you can just see at the killer quality here. Skin tone color is quite good. I mean, I know a lot of people nitpick about Sony not having the best skin tones compared to Canon and things like that. I also have Canon equipment, and I do agree in most cases these skin tones are a little bit better on the Canon, but in this case it looks like I took it with the Canon. This is normally what the skin tones look like on that camera. So they did definitely mess with their skin tone color algorithm, whatever you want to call it, because this looks the best it's ever looked, I gotta say. I mean, I never really have a problem if the skin tones are slightly off. I could easily adjust it in post, but it's nice getting it right off the camera and having it look, you know, natural. And this is what she looks like. So, really happy with the way these came out. I love these photos. My girl. Here's Bones Jones. Bones Jones is at the doctor right now. He's getting his eyelids fixed. You can see his eyelid here on the bottom, how it's like a little swollen. It's like rolled in a little. It's very common with this breed dog, French Mastiff, so he's getting that fixed right now. He's at the vet. And here's Jace. Look at Jace hanging on this railing. Look at just how sharp that is. Phenomenal. Here's another one of Bones. And here's another one of Jace looking at me. I really like the way this shot came out. It's just a shot on the deck, and there was a bee here on the flower, but I like the backlit with the sun setting. And this was over at Layla's birthday. And here's Jace trying to make us laugh. He's doing a really good job. I was cracking up for sure. Here he is sticking a candle in Layla's cake. Here's a picture of Layla in the background out of focus and her cake. And there's Jace. He had a ring pop, so he's got that blue tongue there. And I just like the way the background, you know, melts away. Here's Jace playing with his plastic guns. It's a little bit, that shot's a little bit soft. Here it focused on the gun itself. Here's Jace on the deck. He's got his cool glide bike. This is where they learn to ride without training wheels. So basically he just runs along. It doesn't have pedals or anything. It's just wheels and no training wheels. So he just walks with it, and eventually they just pick their feet up. What an awesome invention. Layla learned how to ride with this thing and learned how to balance in like a week. So Jace is a little bit slower going at this, but he's starting way earlier. U.S. Air Force plane in the park down the road, and you can just see the colors and everything are quite brilliant. And these are RAW files too, by the way. So they're actually a little less brilliant than they would be if the files were edited. This is what the back of the plane looks like. Here's that depth of field separation I always talk about. And here's just an example of another depth of field. That's a brick wall about 15 feet away from the tree. And here's just an example of a slightly edited RAW file showing you the dynamic range. So here's the shot unedited, and I was focused on the sign on the right above the door there, and you can see the background on the left. I knew it was going to be pretty blown out, but you could easily pull that back in post-processing, as you can see here. So the information is all there on the RAW file. So it's quite versatile in the dynamic range area. I was just taking a picture here. I'm just playing around with the depth of field to show you guys, you know, what can be done. A couple more. Here's another shot. I just switched it to manual focus and went to full out of focus just to show what the bouquet balls look like. Here's Jace on the swing. He was swinging quite fast, so this shot came out a little bit soft. It didn't quite nail the focus, but again, it's just a real-world capture, and it's still, I love his expression, you know. He's at full swing. Now this is with the Canon lens. I put my Canon lens on and I'm zoomed way in, and the focus speed was really good on the Canon. I was using the Metabones lens adapter, and it was nailing the focus. It was really impressive, I thought, doing a good job. And here's just a dog, Sage the dog. I'll just zoom in here so you can see the unbelievable clarity and detail. The lighting was a little bit cool here. I had it on auto white balance so you could see the colors are a little bit cool looking. And look at the colors and clarity. I mean, it's just awesome. Really impressive. Very happy with the quality of this camera, I gotta say. Skin tones look great to me. Just another sample photo here. There's my wife holding the baby. And here's just a Corona bottle, and you could see the detail on the sweat bubbles and stuff in the background. Phenomenal. Skin tones look great to me. And here's my wife having a laugh here. Old friends and family. Here's that dog again. This time the lighting was much better, I thought. You could see the unbelievable eyes on this dog. Beautiful eyes. And here's the birthday cake. That was another party we were at. And here's another shot, and you could see just unbelievable. The lighting was gorgeous. And again, the skin tones, they look great. This is exactly what she looks like. And here's shooting into the sun. Just a low light shot. Had to stop down to like F16 to get that cool star effect from the sun there. And here's just a Layla shot. She's got a funny face, but the lighting was cool. And here's just down at the local bridge. They call it the Green Bridge in these parts. So we just took a couple of shots. I stopped here with Layla the other day. And here's just a raw file straight off the camera. So you can see it's a little flat, but I edited one here, as you'll see in a second. So here's the edited one. Now I didn't edit it other than in Lightroom. All I did was raise up the saturation, bring the blacks up, and sharpen it a little bit. So, but you could see, and I also applied the lens profile so you could see the distortion goes away a little bit. So that's a raw file versus a edited or processed file in Lightroom, and you can see how much detail and clarity and all that you can bring out. And JPEGs look more like that right off the camera, but with RAW you're going to have to do a little bit of processing to get that color. And here's just a depth of field fall off shot, just again showing what the full frame format can do. And this is an edited one versus an unedited. And by edited, like I said, I just mean slightly processed in Lightroom. And here's another one down in Chester, New York. Just thought this was a pretty cool scene in the morning light. And this was just a truck parked in a field, an old Mack. And I just love old trucks, so I thought this was a good sample real world photo. And again, the dynamic range and everything, it just looks great. Really impressive. And this is the Pelton water wheel I visit from time to time. Just took a couple sample photos the other day, and they came out pretty good. I didn't edit these. These are straight off the camera raw files. And it was Jace's 3rd birthday, and he was Superman, of course. So we got a cake with some pictures on it. They print the pictures on the cakes now. And Layla actually had to blow the candles out. He was a little bit shy about it, with all the people. But Layla helped him out like the best big sister ever. And she blew the candles out for Jace. It was a really good moment. And this is Jace opening up his presents. He's having a good time. All right, so now I just wanted to show you some pictures from the Bachelor Kill. Let me go full screen here. And these are edited photos. I actually did fully edit these using the Nik filters and Lightroom as well. So let me just show you these quick. Here's another angle looking the other direction. You could see how bright the sky was, but I was able to pull the detail back that little bit. And the photos they came out really good. They have a nice dreamy look with that lighting, that morning glow. And you could see the sun is obviously behind me. That morning glow light is just phenomenal. And this is just looking down off that bridge, so you could see the shadow. So here's another angle. And here's another angle, and you can see there was some geese out there in the water hanging out. Actually opened it up to f2.8, and this is the detail you can get in separation. You could see it just looks awesome. Background just blurs out. You get that killer depth of field. Here's another example, and you could see that, sharp clarity, all that rust. Really happy with this camera and lens combination. And this turtle was crossing the road here. Let me show you the detail on that. And it just nailed the focus. It just knew what to focus on. I was using the wide area focus, and it just picked the turtle and focused on the eye. It just knew. The Sony cameras just seem to know. I stopped down to f4 here on this one to get a little bit more depth of field. Or perhaps it might be f5.6 on this shot. Yeah, it's f5.6. And I'll just zoom in here so you can see. Look at that detail on the eye. Just phenomenal. And the shell, So that is it for the Bachelor Kill. Now the last thing I wanted to show you was the just high frames per second shot. So I had the camera set to 20 frames per second here, and I had the focus mode set to autofocus continuous, and I was taking a series of shots of my friend's Kid William coming towards me. And I was at 70 millimeter, you can see up here on the right, 70 millimeter f2.8. I jacked up the ISO to 400 because I wanted my shutter speed to be nice and high so I wouldn't get any motion blur effect. I just wanted to make sure that the shots came out sharp. So I actually have an article on this where you can see all these images and you know, get a better look, but I just wanted to show you. I'll just go through them real quick here like so. And you can see if I hold it, it just goes. And this is Jace on the swing. It almost looks like a movie when you just hold it down. Watch this. Here's Jace on the swing, Layla on a swing. So the Jace on the swing was more of a high speed. This was low speed. The car was only going like 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour, and every single shot is sharp. I zoomed in on all of these frames and they're all sharp. It like nailed the focus on the eyes on every single frame. Jace, however, not so much. So if I go to Jace, he was swinging on a swing and the swing was going fast, you know, back and forth. I was really close to him and you could see how fast the swing was going. I mean, you could see how much it's moving in between each frame, and it was not able to keep up with this extreme, you know, speed and close range. A couple of the shots are sharp, don't get me wrong, but most of them are just slightly off. Like this one looks like it's sharp from a distance, but you can see it's actually not. And there might be a little bit of motion blur introduced here, but 1/500th of a second should be fast enough. I think it's more just the focus not nailing it just right. This is another one where it looks like it's sharp, and then when you zoom in, you can see it's just slightly off. Like it's really close. I mean, it's still, I'd say, acceptably sharp. So in the real world, I would have moved back and I would have stopped it down to like f5.6 or something, and a lot more of them would have been sharp for sure. You know, but I was purposely trying to push the camera to the limit here. Now this swing here, Layla was on, and the swing was going quite a bit slower just because it wasn't swinging as hard, and they came out pretty darn sharp, like one after another. A couple of them here and there are not sharp, but it was more like a 70% hit rate, I would say. You could see how most of the shots were sharp. And then lastly, we just have a couple auto HDRs I wanted to show you here. So that's just a regular snapshot frame, and here's the auto HDR. So you could see how much more shadow detail is in there, and you can see it aligns the images up quite nicely. No issue there. The only problem is when you have fluttering flags and stuff like that, you will get like a ghosting effect. As you can see here, when I zoom in, see the ghosting? Because it's actually combining, you know, multiple frames. It takes multiple shots. Now, clearly you could have shot these in RAW and pretty much got the same result. I could have pulled the highlights back and added some shadow detail and pretty much got the same result. But the purpose of this is just to show you how, you know, you can do this without any effort. Like this is just straight off the camera auto HDR results with no effort, you know, so there's no processing time involved. The camera does all the work for you. All right. So here's another example. You can see the shadow detail. It's got a little bit more color. See all the detail come in on the tire, for example. See that? So that is about it for the sample photos, guys. All right, guys. So the Sony A9, is it worth $4,500? I say yes. I know that's a lot of money. I can't afford it right now and at this point in my life, but if I was in the market for the best full-frame mirrorless camera, I would definitely be getting the A9. There's no doubt about it. The A7R2 is also phenomenal and a lot cheaper. It has a higher resolution sensor, but it just doesn't have the performance that this camera does. It also doesn't have the build quality and design of this one. The extra manual controls I really particularly like. The higher resolution viewfinder I really like. The touchscreen feature I really like, especially for video. The much larger battery. I mean, it has a bunch of things that make it notably better than the A7R2 in my opinion, especially when using it in the real world as like an enthusiast type user. That's about it for this review. I pretty much covered everything I thought that was important. There's a lot of reviews out there, so be sure to check out the other reviews. You know, I didn't cover everything, but there's so many good quality reviews out there. You know, there's more than enough information at this point, so I tried to do it the best I could, Sony Alpha Lab style. I just wanted to show you real quick. Here's the A7R. This is an older first generation camera body, so just to show you the difference, you know, how far they've really come with the design. You know, I mean, it really is just night and day. They improved it in pretty much every way. This is the third generation camera body, and I really like what Sony's done with their market. So again, thanks for checking out my review, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Please look below the video where I'll have all the links to the articles I've written on the Sony A9, and I'll also have a link to the high resolution sample photos as well. So again, below the video, just check that out and be sure to subscribe. Alright guys, have a great day, and I'll catch up with you next time.